Year 3, hope you're all okay. Welcome to today's English lesson. We are going to continue with our new book. Okay, so a little bit of a rewind to yesterday when we read chapter 1. So if you can remember, it was called The Godfather, and that was because the boy called Demon, his father turned up, who turned out to be a god. So Demon was a half god with supernatural powers, and his power was that he could talk to animals. So his dad, who he'd never met before, came down to see him and spoke to his mom, and then took him away to Olympus on a rainbow so that he could help there. So he'd got a job to do there. So that was our sort of introduction to our story. It was just finding out about those characters. Okay, so what we are going to do today is we are going to have a think and a bit of a rewind to a setting description, because what we would like you to do after these 2 weeks of teaching is we would like you to write the setting description. So we are going to spend a little bit of time going through that. So this is a tree map. Hopefully you can remember seeing these before. There are 4 points on a tree map. And if I can just make sure that you can see it, there are 4 points on a tree map. So just have a think. Can you remember what these are? If I remove these black boxes, what will those headings for those branches on our tree map, what will they reveal? Okay, so just have a think, see if you can, and then see if you were right. Okay, so this first one is the purpose. Okay, so the first one is the purpose. Okay, the next one is the audience. The third one is the presentation. Okay, and the final one is language. Okay, so purpose. What is the purpose of a setting description? Have a think. Purpose of a setting description. Okay, so the purpose of a setting description is to describe. The word description there gives us a clue. So it is to describe a setting. Okay, what is the purpose of the audience, or who are we aiming it at? Who are the audience for our setting description? Okay, so our audience are anybody. It could be anybody. Okay. I then have our presentation. Okay, so on our presentation, we have, it is presented, so a setting description is presented with an image and then the information, our writing in a paragraph. And our final one is our language, is when we are writing a setting description, what sort of language would we need? So for our setting description, we would use similes, adjectives, and prepositional phrases. So we have looked at a setting description before when we were looking at the Iron Man. So hopefully you can remember those features and how we will work it. So by the end of our 2-week cycle, we will write a setting description, and our setting description will include similes, adjectives, and prepositional phrases. So that's what we're going to be looking at over these next few weeks in order to tie it all together and create a setting description. Okay, so just having a focus on today. Okay, so if we have a look at our what is to know the language features in a setting description. So we are focusing on those language features in a setting description so that we can see what we need to use, so that we can make sure that when we write our setting description, we are including all of that language. Okay, how it's new learning is practiced, and why it's so that we can identify these in chapter 1 of our text. Okay, so we're going to look at that first chapter, the one that we went through together, and we are, well, and you are going to identify those language features in the text. Okay, so the first thing that I want you to do is some of these language features we mentioned as our language features for our setting description. So I just want you to have a little think back, and I want you to match the description features to the meaning. So I have adjectives, I have prepositions, and I have nouns. These are the language features, and then these are the meanings. So a word that tells you where or when something is in relation to something else, the single word that describes a person, place, or thing, e.g. dog, and a word that describes a noun. What I have done is I've muddled those up so they're not next to the right meaning, the definition, and the word. So we need to make sure that we put them back together. So I want you to have a little think. You can pause it now. Just have a think about those words and their meanings, and which ones match up. Pause it now to have a little time to think. Okay, so what we will do is we will do it together. So adjectives, what can we remember about an adjective? Okay, so we remember that an adjective describes a noun. It's a word that describes a noun. So it could be big, it could be red, it could be long, it could be tall. Okay, they are words that describe a noun. A preposition. So last week, I know that Miss McCabe was looking at prepositional phrases with you when you were doing your myth. So have a think, a preposition. What did we say a preposition was? Okay, fantastic. So if I can just highlight this one now. Okay. There we go. Our preposition is a word that tells you where or when something is in relation to something else. So, for example, in, on, under, next to, behind, front of. Okay, they are the words that tell us where something is in relation to something else. Okay, and a noun, we know that a noun is a single word that describes a person, place, or thing. For example, in our description here, we have dog, but it could be a person, so it could be a teacher, it could be a place like Derby, or it could be a thing like a chair, a pencil. Okay, so now that we have matched those up, hopefully that's a really good reminder, and that will help us when we are moving on to our next part. So here, I have a little bit of a rewind. So this is taking us all the way back to the Iron Man. So it's one of the sections, one of the pages out of Iron Man that I have taken out, because it's got some really good adjectives, some really good prepositions, and some really good nouns in there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start by reading it to you. Okay, then what we will do is we will go through, we will have a look at the adjectives, and we'll have a look at the prepositions, and we'll have a look at the nouns, and we will highlight those on our piece of paper. So I will put a different screen on then so that you can see that. Okay, so I'm just going to read it to you so that you can, and what I want you to do is have a listen, okay, for those adjectives, prepositions, or nouns. What you could do is you could pop your hand up each time you hear an adjective, a preposition, or a noun. So hopefully you'll be like this as I am reading it to you. Okay, so the Iron Man came to the top of the cliff. How far had he walked? Nobody knows. Where did he come from? Nobody knows. How was he made? Nobody knows. Taller than a house, the Iron Man stood at the top of the cliff on the very brink in the darkness. The wind sang through his iron fingers. His great iron head, shaped like a dustbin but as big as a bedroom, slowly turned to the right, slowly turned to the left. His iron ears turned this way, that way. He was hearing the sea. His eyes, like headlamps, glowed wide, then red, then infrared, searching the sea. Never before had the Iron Man seen the sea. He swayed in the strong wind that pressed against his back. He swayed forward on the brink of the high cliff. And his right foot, his enormous iron right foot, lifted up out into space, and the Iron Man stepped forward off the cliff into nothingness. Crash! Down the cliff, the Iron Man came, toppling, head over heels. Crash! Okay, so as I was reading that, hopefully you were there listening out for the adjectives, listening out for the prepositions, and listening out for the nouns, because we've had our definitions, we now know what they are. Okay, so now we've gone through it, okay. What I am going to do is I'm going to model what I want you to do on for when it's your turn. Okay, so this is my turn, and I'm going to go through and I'm going to look for the adjectives, the prepositions, and the nouns. I'm just going to share my screen for you in a different way so that we can see both of them together. So just going to go to this one, there. And then hopefully now you can see the Ironman clip with the colours and the sheet so that I can model that for you. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to look at those adjectives. Okay, I'm going to look at those words that describe a noun. Okay, so I am going to have a look. So I'm going to go how far it is. Nobody knows. Taller. Okay, so tall or taller is describing. Okay, so under the top of it, I know that. Not listening. So adjective is great. It means it's very big. So I'm going to underline that. So just remind that. His eye and ears, so it's telling me his eye and ears, it's telling me what they are made of. So that is a describing word because it's describing what they're made of. Here we've got his great iron head shaped like a dustbin, but as big, so it's telling us the size of it, so it's describing the size. His eyes like headlamp glowed white, so these are the colours, so it's describing what colour they glowed. So okay, he swayed in the strong wind, so he's telling us that the wind was strong. And pressed against, he swayed forward on the brink of a high cliff, so it's telling us the cliff is high, so it is describing this. So I'm going through with these adjectives and I am underlining. And his right foot, so it's telling us which foot, it's not just saying and his foot, okay, it's telling us his right foot, so it's describing which foot. His enormous, so that's telling us how big it is. Iron, right foot, lifted up, out into space, step forward. Okay, so I've gone through this and I have looked at the adjectives. Okay, so I might just write that. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go through and have a look at those prepositions. But what I've got to remember is the preposition is telling us where something is in relation to something else. Okay, so I'm just going to go through it again, and I'm going to go through all of the has and stood at. So we've got at here. Okay, I'm going to colour this in so that we can see it easier. So at the top, on is a preposition. Okay, I have got a preposition sheet for you that I will print off so that you can use that in order to identify these. So in the darkness, I know that that's telling me where it is in relation to something else. Through, okay, slowly turned to, so it's telling us where it turned. Okay, he's swayed in the strong wind. On the brink of a cliff, up and out into space, off cliff into nothingness, and then down cliff. Okay, so these are my prepositions. Okay, so now I'm going to have a look at those nouns. Okay, so I'm going to do this here. So I know that a noun is a person, place, or a thing. So I've got Iron Man is the person in this. He's the man, the Iron Man. Came to the top of the cliff. The cliff is the place. Okay. I have got his fingers are part of him, so it is a thing. His fingers are a thing. Okay, his head, his eyes are a thing. So person, place, got any more? The cliff again is the place, because that's where he is. C. Okay, I've got his foot here. Okay, so I have added some nouns and I've remembered that they are person, place, or a thing. Okay, so I have done that. I have modelled that on here. What I would now like you to do is, I go to this one, I think I can share on just the basic on here. Okay, so what I would like you to do now is you are going to prove it. You are going to prove that you know what a noun is, what an adjective is, and what preposition is. And you're going to do that in the paragraph. And the paragraph that we are going to use is one from our book. And it was the part where they stepped off the rainbow. Okay, so when they arrived at Olympus. Okay, so it is this one here. It is, "Here we are," said Pan. He strode down off the rainbow towards some shining white temples. Everything was enormous and very clean on Olympus, though Demon could smell an odd and rather nasty sort of pooey stench in the air. There were all kinds of nymphs and cherubs flitting about among gigantic multicoloured blooms, and trees with bunches of silver golden fruit hanging from them. Okay, so what you are going to do is you are going to go through that and you are going to highlight, colour in or underline, it is up to you, the nouns, the adjectives and the prepositions. And I suggest you probably do those in different colours so that you can see the word groups. Okay, so I am going to put this on Dojo, okay, so that you have this, and then you are going to go through and you are going to highlight the nouns, the adjectives, and the prepositions, just as I did in our Iron Man. Okay, what I would like you to do when you have done that is send those to us on Dojo. If you do not have a sheet and you can't print it out and you can't do it online, what you can do is you can do it in your book. So if you just bear with me a minute, I will show you what I mean. Okay, so here I have a book. You will turn to the next clean page in your book. Okay, you will write the date, and the date was Thursday, the 25th February. And then you would create a table. So, oh, Mrs. Bird hasn't got that on there. Sorry about that. There you go. You would create a table. So if you just bear with me a minute, I will go and get ruler so that I can show you what I mean. Okay, so with your ruler, you would draw a line. You would split it into 3 sections. You would write, on the first one, I would write noun, I would write adjective, and I would write preposition. Okay, and then I would go through and I would write them in. So Pan is the dad, so I would write him in now. Okay, down, off the rainbow, I would write off in prepositions. I would write rainbow in nouns. Okay. Shining white, I would write in adjectives. Okay, so you can do it as a table if you are unable to highlight and print it off and highlight it that way. Okay, so what I look forward to is receiving all of this. You know your job, you're going to prove it to me that you know nouns, adjectives and prepositions. Okay, I look forward to seeing those, whether it's sending the sheet back with it highlighted or whether it being a photo of your book. Okay, year 3, I will see you tomorrow. Have a lovely day. Bye.